Hey, is your child already dreading the 4th of July? Whether it's the fireworks because they're too loud, or because they're too bright, or maybe it's the crowds being with all the people, even if it's just at like a family barbecue, or they're just you yourself as the parent are worried because what if there's just a little bit too much stimulus and all of a sudden there's a meltdown? This video is for the parents who are already maybe prepping the headphones or the earmuffs, or they're planning their strategic exit if something crazy happens, or they're just planning on skipping the event altogether. I'm really glad you're here. Let's go ahead and talk about what's going on. So there's nothing worse than as a parent feeling like you're just getting through the day to day, but then a holiday like this comes up and it feels like you just have to manage and micromanage the sensory overload, right? Just be super attentive to every single tiny detail that's happening in your kid's life and in your life. And you've probably tried almost everything from noise canceling headphones to maybe weighted blankets to leaving early from parties just so that you avoid the noise and the crowds, but still your kids will spiral. I want to share with you a story about a boy named Dax. Dax couldn't even go out in public, and it wasn't because he was in pain, it was because he was overstimulated from a sensory perspective, and it was too loud of noises and too bright of lights just were too much for little Dax to handle. His parents were really heartbroken because nothing that they seemed to do seemed to actually make a big difference in his life. There would be marginal gains at first, and then he would just go back to where he was before. And what's cool is when he got scans done, it revealed what was actually going on. It revealed the root cause to all of Dax's issues. So now he's actually thriving, and he's being able to go to school, he's being able to go out to family outings, he's even able to handle fireworks. So let's talk about what's going on and how the nervous system connects these kids to their sensory overloads and how working on their nervous system can help them get back to where they need to be. So what sensory overload is it's the nervous system is stuck in what we call a fight or flight pattern, a stressed out pattern. And when a kid is stuck in fight or flight, we call this sympathetic dominance, meaning that the brain is always on edge regardless of what you do. It always has that inkling and that shift and that propensity to shift towards fight or flight and sympathetic overload or sensory overload. And the 4th of July, it's really a sensory overload of so many different things, from sounds, right? When it comes to fireworks, to kids screaming at the pool and having a fun time, to the lights from the fireworks, to even things like the smells at barbecues, right? And the smells of burning things and camping and just routine disruptions, all these things overload a kid's nervous system. And a healthy brain can filter all these things out, right? But a kiddo that is struggling and has an overwhelmed brain, they can't filter these things out. And that eventually leads to some sort of meltdown or falling apart. And that's why as a parent, you're kept on edge all the time. The root cause of all this comes down to something that we call dysautonomia, which is an imbalance within the nervous system that leaves the gas pedal of the nervous system on and does not allow enough of or any of the brake pedal to be pressed down. Oftentimes, dysautonomia starts off way earlier than we actually even realize. If you think about pregnancy is a stressful time for mom, right? There's a lot of hormones changing, there's a lot of lifestyle changes that are happening. Mom might not feel super well. Well, guess what? Everything that mom experiences, baby also experiences too, because they share a blood supply through the umbilical cord. It might not start off during that pregnancy process. Maybe birth was a stressful time. And so if birth was stressful, let's say there was some sort of intervention like C-section or manual assistance or a forceps supported birth, a bunch of different things, vacuum extraction, all of this creates stress during the birthing process. Or maybe mom was induced, right? That's a stressful experience because the body might not be ready to go into labor yet, but we force it into that state. And then as baby's exiting the womb, that puts a lot of stress on baby. Now, the reason that this has such a large impact specifically with babies is because the birth process puts a lot of stress on the head and the entire body, but specifically the head and neck, right? And the vagus nerve is actually housed right here to begin with in the brainstem, and then it extends from here and continues down all the way throughout your entire body, communicating to major systems like the digestive system, the respiratory system, the cardiovascular system. And so when that vagus nerve gets stressed from whatever stage of pregnancy and birth and all that stuff that happens, then the system goes into some sort of overdrive and can get stuck with that gas pedal on as opposed to having an adequate amount of brake pedal or vagus nerve balance. The limitation of traditional approaches, or maybe westernized approaches, is that it's more about avoidance strategies as opposed to getting to the root cause of the issue. So if you think about it this way, if you have a check engine light come up in your car and you're like, oh, that check engine light's on, and you take a piece of tape and you stick it over the top of that check engine light, the check engine light's still on, right? The piece of tape is blocking it so that you can't see the check engine light, but that light's still on, and eventually there'll be some sort of breakdown and disruption in the normal process of your car, right? So just avoiding these issues and trying to stay out of these situations where your child's going to be introduced or have some form of stress added on is as intuitive as putting a piece of tape over a check engine light and expecting the car to continue to run normally, right? They're band-aids, they're not solutions. So things like headphones and medications, and even things like sensory bins that expose kids in light ways to these issues can be helpful, but it doesn't necessarily fix the actual root cause of the issue. So even things like OT and therapy, it's limited if the nervous system can't regulate the way that it's supposed to. Those things will have some gains, but if we can tune in the nervous system, then we can have even farther reaching gains than we did with those therapies alone. So what we do in our office to figure out where the stress is stuck on the nervous system that's keeping your kids stuck in a fight or flight state is we do something called insight scans. Insight scans help us really hone in on specific areas where the neurospinal system is stressed out. So we do 3 different types of scans for kids. For some kids, we can only do 2 depending on their age and how compliant they are and able to handle the stress of just coming in for that visit. But it helps us locate where this noisy brain syndrome is so that we can decrease the input that their nervous system is dealing with and help their nervous system regulate and start to filter stuff on their own, as opposed to these specific coping strategies. So adjustments, they actually restore and activate that brake pedal that we talked about and restore the calm within the nervous system. It rebuilds balance between the fight or flight side, or the sympathetic side of the nervous system, and the rest and digest and heal side of the nervous system, or the parasympathetic side of the nervous system. And when the sensory processing improves, then holidays feel a whole lot more possible and a whole lot more fun for your kid and for you as a parent, because you don't have to worry about them all the time, right? So what I want to help you understand and hope that you gain from this video is that your child can totally enjoy fireworks. Your child can totally enjoy going camping and dealing with the smells, and going to barbecues and dealing with the sunscreens being put on their skin even though it's a sticky feel, right? They can handle that. Dax was able to get through it all. Your kid can handle it too. This is all possible when we stop just managing the symptoms and we actually address the root cause of the issue with your kid so that they can have the lifestyle that you want them to have and that you know that they can have. So if you want to know more about how we can help your kiddo, you can message us Fireworks to get more information on how the insight scans and a consultation can help us get to the root cause of your child's issues. If you are watching this on YouTube, just drop us a message and we'll get in touch with you as soon as we can. If you're watching this on Facebook, again, message us Fireworks and we'll get in touch with you as soon as we can and get you scheduled for a first visit in our office. Thank you so much for trusting us with your kiddo's health. We're excited that you're here.